Thank you so much. Actually, I'm glad to be here, and this is my second time to come to Japan. I was in Japan in 2005. I'm really very excited because we had the same problem which you have, I think, 10 years ago, and you have did excellent work on the underground and railway actually, and also have the treat much better than we are currently facing in the congestion. Yeah, my presentation is I give just a brief China transportation development policy, particularly for the urban transport for the low carbon city in China. I'm working in the China Urban Sustainable Transportation Research Center, which is a part of the Administration of Transportation. And I also am secretary of the Technical Committee of the National Urban Passenger Transport Stadardization. I will give the three parts in my presentation: the first, the background, and the key challenges, strategic priorities, and key policies proposed and actions. At last, I will give the 5 minutes for one video, which is also related to this one. As we are labor, actually, we are the fast-growing urbanization country, and every year there is 1.5% of the urbanization. And also, we are coming to the vehicle society. And every year, we have about 150, every day I have 1,500 cars in Beijing increasing. And in many of cities, from the 60 to 40, the different variants in the city. But that is the very rapidly increasing of the car. And just Professor Peter have told us the same trade we are currently facing. And also we had the very fast growing as the other country does not. Here is the table shows from the 20 to 40, Japan have been taking 30 years, and China have taken 22 years for the same time period of the urbanization. But in Britain, it's 120 years. Many people have something real, I think, memory. We are king of the bicycle, and take the Beijing as example. In 1960, we have nearly 36% of the trip by the bicycle, but we declined very quickly until less than 20%. And public transportation have increasing, but it's very hard to push this. And in last 10 years, the increase of the public transportation 1.5 per year. But the bicycle line have been decreased 2% of the yearly, and also the car have been increasing 6%. Is much faster, and the situation is not. It's actually it's normal in many cities, particularly in the population with the 3 million, above the 3 million. And our public transportation system is far compared with some of the more the transportation system developed country and cities. Here is Tokyo and Paris, and you see in Shanghai, and also there are some of cities like the Ningbo, which compare with the Brussels. We will say that in Tokyo have more public transportation, and in New York, in the central city as well. But you say in Tianjin, we are here. So there is a rather nationwide, way less than 20%. And 30% in the city which have the 8 million people, and around the less than 3 million, we are rather poor. Normally, it's have the less than 10% of the population sharing. And in the congestion, there is the latest prediction is around 110 cities have the congestion problem. And there is some research is working on the cost of the congestion. And we will say that Beijing have cost a lot. And also, we will take in 1 hour and 10 minutes every day for the commuters. And also, there are different cities have the different tourism to let the time disappear. Let's say we have been the investing give the survey in Chongqing. The people say, okay, we can stand it currently 5 minutes more, but in some of the city they say, oh, we cannot even today. So that is the very urgent the government have to take in place. But afterwards, I will talk about why it's very difficult for Chinese government to take in this problem to be solved. In Beijing, the daily congestion time has been increasing from the 3.5 hours per day to 5 hours. And the biggest one, it's called the biggest congestion in the world, is September 17. That is because we have the mid-October holiday, and also it's Friday. They mix together, and also there is a little rain because we have not so very developed for the irrigation system. It's the drainage. The drainage system is not so good, and so also the several very high officials, central government have been on the road. That's the problem. They have been signed a lot of the documents through the different way to the MOT as well as to the Beijing government. At the meantime, with the increase of the cars and the oil consumption have been increased, it's estimated it will be 75% at the 2020. And annual increase, it will be more than 10%. And also, you see here, and here is the American, Japan, and here is the Korea, which have the more in the transportation. We think we are just the beginning because the explosion of the car. And we also have the heating system because we have the most of many populations, 40% is in the northern part. We used to have the heating system started the October until to the end of the March. That is in many cities, the heating system currently is the bigger one. But we prediction it will become to the very quickly transporting in some of cities will become to the first or second. For the environmental pollution, and we will say there are mainly come from, especially for the logs, come from transportation. In Beijing, we say we had a job. It says that the mayor of the London to make together, then they make together. We learn from you because we had the money folks as you did, but actually that is how we treat the air pollution. That's the problem, and also that is linked is the more broadly section problem because the environmental protection currently is another ministry, and there's the national policy how linked with the transportation sector. That is a challenge. And also for the noisy, and in particular for the underground, for the rail, and also for the vehicle part, there is very difficult currently to enforce the factory to have the good vehicle. I mean, for the regulation itself. So, like China, it's like the professor just asking, we are developing country, and where we go. And actually, the smiling call, it shows that if we cannot properly treat the private car, then we will have the problem. Normally with the auto, with the more private car, then we go to unsustainability. So it's a chance for China to, in the globally leadership for the sustainable urban transportation development. So that is really the challenge we are currently. And we did some scenario analyzing. If we do the urban planning, and also for the public transportation priority, and urban planning is quite difficult currently. I mean, there's a local government have their own vision, and the central government, of course, they do not want the GDP losing. You know, most of this, the increase of GDP come from housing. So the local government wants the housing more and more. Like the city become bigger and bigger and longer trip. And so that if we want to condense the city, that is quite very challenging for the planning. And for the public transportation as well. And but that is the true. If the government cannot control, even with the increase of the income from family, the car will become taking the more advantage, and also the bicycle as well as the walking will become problem. So actually we hopefully we can have the low energy consumption transportation mode and low environmental pollution, but also resources consumption, particularly for land, because the land current street or actually the land used for the public is still limited, and the low accident rate and low financing bonding. But this is some of the principle we try to setting up for the urban transportation, but particularly for this one, because the many underground system will take in place in many cities, and much more cities, they won't have the underground. But in future, they cannot really spend on this. And for the CO2 emission, China government have the national target, is working on the CO2 CO2 emission decreased the 40 to 50 is compared to 2000 to the 2020. Every year about a 5% decrease. That is very challenging. And in terms of the intensity. So for the GDP increase, it will be decreased by 60%. That is the decrease in the energy consumption. And we will say already achievement in the industrial side. But it's very difficult in the housing and transportation sector. And we had the evaluation for the 11 5-year planning in the first of the 3 years. That is only two sectors which did not meet the national target. That is transportation and the building. And then the goal above these goals is requirement from central government. So they got the transportation sector itself also have been. We have the certain numbers given by central government. But let's have a look at what's the current status we are. And the share walking, bicycling, and public transportation, we are quite well. You say there's particular, except Beijing, but we are among the city with the 3 to 5 million populations. The city is quite well. So we will go. how we really treat the passenger transport, the particular for private transport, that is really the problem. We want to keep this trend, but how we can, one side the government say, okay, the car is our economical pillar. Then the car become more cheap and cheaper, and the road limitation is there. So the problem is how we to promote our public transportation for more people, because the city become too big as well. So the public transportation, the government have been taking as the first one priority. And I have, before I come here, I have read the books which is a recorder of the Premier Zhu Rongji, which 5 years ago. He is the head at the last we call the central government committee. He pointed out the two questions. One is public transportation, and the second is democracy. So actually, for the public transportation, we have been getting the attention from central government since the 2005. But why it's so difficult is, because one side, we had the different departments involved in this, and also we have not taken the faster as one of our targeting, since congestion become too difficult and efficient. That is concerned by the government. Of course, the safety that the central government very concerned, and economical benefits. It's the trade through the operators and the government that is the concern, the subsidy. There are many debate there. Actually, for the construction, is a multimodal integrated public transportation system. It's very important, but it's very difficult. I would say we have road that's managed by the Administration of Transportation. We have railway managed by the Administration of Railway, and we have the airplane pocket. It's managed by, we have the civil elevation, and also we have waterway in the city, all put together. But we managed by the different sectors. That is one thing. And the difficult is that we used to be separated the city with the non-distance system management. And also for the high quality service, that is our objective. But how we give the time on the schedule. In Japan, you can find the time, and that's like yesterday we come late, and we very fortunate to get the on time train, which have time there. But you go to China, you never find the underground. You have time, but you say, okay, next 10 minutes it's coming. And also for the construction side, actually, hopefully we can have the very significant investment in these 5 years to get the integrated public transportation more sustainable. So from the national government, we have seriously the actions taking place. The first one is the institutional reform. I remember when I come to Japan, that time the transportation have not integrated with the land use, but currently you are redone. By chance, I have use your vice minister. They said, okay, we are just beginning, but we can at least have a talk. But here you will find it's like we also do this almost similar. In the 2008, the central government have decided they taking the urban transportation responsibility, which guidance the local government to take responsibility from the building and housing ministry to the Administration of Transportation. And traditionally, we have the highway, waterway, civil elevation, and poster still this together. And at city level, there is in 1970, the city is small, so we have only one model, which they put them together. But later on, with the increase of the city and also increase of economical, we have different models. And in this one, we sometimes have 6 or 7 departments involved in transportation. And this one is in the road transportation, which managed by the one transportation department. And come to here, and through this central government reform, we are come to this one. But still, in some of the cities, we already gone this one, and the Shenzhen is the example. You will see we have the very complex institutional reform. And I'm glad, actually, I'm as a part of the team to working with the minister on the guideline for the institutional transportation reform in the central cities. And we had the monthly discussions among among the different officials, as well as we have the consultation with the different departments at the city. And currently, there is 100% of the private department of transportation have the responsibility to guide the urban transport, and 5% of the city government, city urban transport department already have the responsibility for the buses, taxis, and underground. It was before it belonged to another departments. And also, you will see along the Yangtze River, they have the more advanced, we say, the institutional, maybe because of the economic. And also, I think we might try to do some researches on different status of the development regarding the urban development as well. And here is example for Shenzhen. And you see here, we have been taking the policy and planning decision-making from the NDRC, it's a local NDRC, the national reform, development reform. And also have been the planning. There is a planning authority have been divided into some part from transportation, some part goes to the housing. So that is already changed. As well as some police have the responsibility original for the safety, but you will see many facilities like the lights, and also for the sign as managed by the policeman. And in Shenzhen, also partly it's designed by the transportation, and also for the data which can collection by the policeman, but will be integrated with transportation authority. All the data will open for the public. It will be by the Department of Transportation, as well as there is the decentralizing of the power, because like the city, Beijing and Shenzhen, it's very bigger. Only one authority taking the whole responsibility. It's not be possible. Like in the parking, it's very localized, the management, and so there is the district, the transportation department have been recently recreated in Shenzhen as well. And through this, the institutional reform, there is a very important change is that they reclassified the road. It was before we taking this as the national road and a provincial road and highway, whatever, but they're all in the city. So reclassified as the function. So, and that is the really changing. And also that is the department to say it's only one currently in the city. It says that we will be responsible for the congestion. And still in many cities like Beijing, we are struggle. Who will responsibility for the congestion? It's a policeman or the transportation. Even there is some problems asking for the transportation, but they will go together. Okay, your responsibility. So that is some very critical, important reform. But if we're looking at the future urban management, that have to be like at least like Singapore and also Shenzhen, have to be more changing. And secondly, we have the national public transportation planning. And also that is the first time in the China economical development planning says that the urban transportation is part of the development of the national, have been very clearly in the national planning. And also the MOT have been accordingly have their planning for the public transportation development. It's like how to say it's like used to be we have many infrastructure there, but since there is the responsibility transfer, then we try to change. It's like transportation is not only for the infrastructure, like as a city construction part, but also have to be more than concerned for the people moving. And so there is coming to the previous 2005, Permit 1 have been talking about the private public transportation development, and so that is still will into the detailed implementation side. And to planning the rail transit network, and put for the rail transit network, that is the one of the national program. And also the BRT is also one part of the, but of course that is very difficult. Later on I will spend some time to talk. And then for guiding the private car using, and actually that is just, how to say, from zero, or actually the transportation, the administration of transportation want to say local government should to control the private car usage, particular for discourage the encourage the mileage increasing. And we had the estimation in Beijing, 40% of the car used is less than 5 kilometers. So that is very challenge. It's a very challenge for the policy side, and because the national government still have the policy there, the car industry is our pole, the economical growth and part, and integrates the public transportation and rural transportation development. I think it's not easily to imagine how different the transportation situation. It's the service is different from the countryside and the city. And we normally say, if we go to Japan, you will say, here is a village. No, we say that is city. I think that's the dream for us. So the central government also taking the goal as they decrease the difference, the transportation service between the rural transportation and to the public in the city, because the city government normally gives a very heavily subsidy for the buses, but for the village, they are poor, but the government have not decided to give the money for them to operate. And also we have the objective to the different cities. The city with over 10 million population, and rail transport will as the main body, and cooperative network and buses. And then the 3 to 10 million, which are dominated by buses with rail as the supplementary. And also we had the city with the less 1 million, which will be dominated by buses. That is the kind of the guidance policy. And we had some analyzing the gap analyzing for the public transportation structure between the city have the more population. We will see in Shanghai, and public transportation is, although it's growing in the past 5 years very quick, but still in Beijing, we are very difficult to increase them because the car usage have not limited before Olympic Games, and we started have the restrict usage of the car since 2008. And also, in your country, you have more public transportation. And from the 3 to 10 million population, and we also have some city. You will say in Chengdu, and walking and cycling is 1/3 of that. And actually in Guangzhou, we have more. And but the public transportation, we have left behind of them. And in Hong Kong, they are more working on the buses as well as partially on the ground. And for 1 and 3 million, this kind of cities and have the more walking, cycling. And if the city which is have the more economic development, they might go on the ground, but central government will be not really to give them more incentive for this. And we are struggle because the economic development in many cities in this kind of side of city have not so developed. So we are struggled. Could it be possibly with the buses can service with such a demand for the public transportation? So they developed the combination transport model with the basic working and on the ground, as well as the BRT or the BRT plus TOD. That is our choice. And also for the public cycling is one of the program in China. We are really working in 16 cities. Actually, there is none of them. There is a central government have a role. That is the local government decision. And for the rail transit development plan, and actually currently we have the 1,047 kilometers on the ground, and we will have the more in 2015. Actually, that is the opening. It will be longer than that in the past, so it goes to very quick. And there is more 16 cities will have the underground. For BRT, currently there is the national guideline is under the underdone. It's central government, actually local government as well, to encourage to do this. But the difficulty is who gives the road or the spaces. That is the question, because currently the spaces managed the sign which they goes by the private car or buses by the policeman, but the land, the infrastructure like the stop is managed by the housing department, and the buses run by the transportation side is a bus company. So that is kind of we say the power dissemination towards the bus development. And we will say there are many cities which already have the planning, but once it come to the implementation, that is the way we are doing. And the third action is the public transportation regulation. Actually, that is the public transportation have been started 10 years ago, but they have the monthly discussion, but still have not come yet. It's scheduled, it will come next year, and MOT have been putting for a lot of effort on this, and because here, important is keeping the government as the major provider of public transportation, because 10 years ago, mainly buses have been sold for the private, because there is no regulated subsidy given to them, and some of them are really just giving up and disappeared one overnight. Then the employee and buses cannot work in. That is one sequence. And another is they are just asking for the subsidy, but the service is quite really the problems for the public. And so really the government, if you are not the government responsibility, that will be very difficult for the local operator to run the buses, since they some land resources as well controlled by the local government as well. So in that regulation, keep the government as the major provider. Of course, they can managed by the private, but the major responsibility will be the government. And also the local investment and land requiring for the public transportation, it will be part of the documents, and the institutional and also cooperational scheme, particularly for planning. Today, we already signed the transportation impact analysis. It's managed by the transportation, but there it was not there. And also once we had the moonlight, we called sleeping town. The housing there very beautiful, but the bus service is not there. The people once they sit there, then say, okay, the bus is coming, but you say there is no stop, and also the line is not there. So the public transportation left behind of this design, and in here very clear say how you cooperate at the beginning of planning. And also decentralize the power, like the TDM. If there is needed in your city, then your local government can have the law regulation. I remember 5 years ago, actually still today continue, the Beijing government and also with the Shanghai. Shanghai had the 16 years, they had the policy to reduce their car ownership, actually. And Beijing have hesitated to do this, but you say there is a real disaster when the car comes. And there is a local decision, but in the central government they really have a very huge debate how we can really treat this. One side is the economic development, another side is how we really can keep the GDP increasing without the car. So there, make the local government make the decision. We have been discussing long time. They try to learn from the London with the congestion charge. From I know is at least 10 cities already have their own plan, but they will never announce and say, okay, I will do it first. They might just looking, but they say the kind of regulation really working there, they can announce as they want at a time. So there's what kind of the structures for buses and rail, and also how we manage the taxis. I don't know here your taxi managed quite better than we are. I think because in China city we have 660 cities, and their scheme is totally different. And the driver goes to the local government to say, okay, my salary is too small, you give me more. So there is really it's a regulated trade. So we say, okay, if we really want to manage the public transportation, then we have to treat it with the regulation. And of course, there is who will be the supervision for this of the quality and finance. And I think those of days there will be the national public transportation priority a policy guideline will be issued by the central government, and this is the effort, the core effort from the Administration of Transportation and the NDRC, and we are working as a team together to actually working on this. As I have told before, there is how we can really to take in that is the in there actually the huge debate is who gives the money, or actually what's the central government give the incentive. Does the central government give some of money to guide the local transportation, the local city transportation, or what kind of policy given? And here, actually, at last, although we already prepared several package kind of how the central government finance, at last, the DRC, MOT, and the Ministry of Finance have not really agreement for the finally, but they do give some of the incentive for the local government. What they want them to have the housing development. That is it's kind of the TOD. The company can have the land development related to the transportation. The 5.1 is the urban passenger transport standardization, which is I'm working for that the committee, which prepared. We are prepared for the national committee for the urban passenger transport standardization, and actually there have a very huge job we have to work. It's including the buses, taxis, railway, and rent car fares in the city. That is very, very broad range. And in terms of the safety, security, network, and also energy safety and CO2 emission, whatever here, which there will be the, we have the 15 experts working in this committee, and it will start next year. Currently, we are planning. And from the road capacity, operation, finance, maintain, and information ITS, how it works. That is the difficult one, but we think it's a very important one. And as I told before, there is the public transportation, the legislation. We try to have the central government finance, but that is the it's kind of the still discussion on the larger part of the separate policy will be for the next 2 or 3 years. We don't have no time yet, but that will be done. And here it's somewhere in that the document more likely working on the local government. The local government have to have the special fund for the public transportation. If they not, they will not apply for the central government transportation project, whatever there. It's including highway, whatever. And also, we are trying to really to say how we can take in the public transportation, the parking fee and leasing fee and congestion charge, whatever could be generated from the cars and used for this the foundation fund. And also, it's a very crucial one is we have the very cheap pricing policy for the underground as well buses. Like Beijing, I think we are one of the cheapest the public transportation ticket in the world. That's a start because of our games. I hope that lessons will let learn for London. Today there are many officials as well as the people working in the transportation. We say, oh, that is not good. The policy. It's too cheap. Its estimation in Beijing, if you take in bus one trip, average it will be 2 yuan, but currently under 1.4. So it's very, very cheap too cheap cannot stand. And so the Beijing government have given a lot of money to subsidy for the buses, and as well as the underground as well. And so we try to set in the ticket price, how they linked with the cost and of the labor, and actually the cost for the operator. So that is the because we have another department working on the pricing, because we taking the whole the pricing as the total control. During the Spring Festival, we sometimes will have the short message from the mobile to say the government very strictly control for the buses price, and also for the water, whatever they are same level. But actually, in terms of transportation operation, we cannot obey the really economical rules there. And that is very challenging for the project-based investment, because currently in Chinese system, the transportation still managed by the construction, more towards to the construction project-based. And also that is decision-making, it's by the NDRC, it's not by the transportation. So that is still the challenge. We also try to work as another country, the several years, very detailed planning with integrated transportation. I think this will come on with some time, because in most of cities still very dominated with the construction side. But that is the challenge, how we can link it with the performance evaluation, the service particular, and also for the integrated urban transportation planning. Because planning currently it's improved through the MOT to the NDRC at the central level, and at the local level, almost the Department of Transportation, and to the local NDRC as well. So they actually come to the plans. We propose, actually this is a proposal. We proposed a few taxes as in USA, UK, and other countries. The fuel tax is one part of the important for the resources for the public transportation and vehicle purchasing. And currently in that the national guideline, we only get the buses. It will be not given the money to the local government, because they are for the public. But for the National Public Transportation Fund, as I told before, have not get the full agreement. And currently we have this go to highway and waterway, but none of them go to the public transportation. And here, and we also try to we have the central government transfer to the local government. They have the water supply, education, whatever, but public transportation is not there. So we proposed the local public transportation fund through the land value, and currently there are about 50% of the city income come from land. And that is not also managed by the central government. We think that is part of the way to solve the problem for the shortage of the fund, and also congestion fee probably in the future, and also urban development fee currently have. And this is also some of city used for the public transportation, some of not, particular for the stops. And the sixth is the since this year, actually the Administration of Finance and Transportation working together to have the 250 million yuan provided from central government to the local transport. That is not only for the urban transportation, but urban transportation part of that. It will be used for the infrastructure, like some part of tunnel. There is some energy saving lights, whatever. It says there is a project based evaluation the CO2 emission, and also ITI's infrastructure, and of course some part of the public transportation service. And there is 10 cities started working with the low carbon transportation planning, but actually it's just a beginning. And there is Tianjin, Chongqing, Shenzhen, and Hangzhou. The Action 6 is the National Transit Palace, the Metropolis program. I think that be the similar with you have here, but we are focused on the public transportation. It's scheduled 2015 to be 13 pilot cities. And that is the action cooperated with MOT and with the local government. And there is a field survey in particular candidates that have been done by our team. And also there is a monitoring processor will be given. It will be done, but actually here is some of the indicators which have been showed here. The public transportation share at end of 5 years, and also the coverage, the stop coverage, 300 meters within 300 meters have the stops, and it will come to in the central area 95%. And the bus speed, how much in the truckway, and also here, and also translator asking, and what's this? It's because the land planning, we have the planning institute, planning department as well. That is have been controlled by we had the land conservation department. They had the how much land you can use for what, and because the stops have really efficient for the buses. Many buses you will see in China, they are just on the road. I think the same thing in another country. I have been in Korea. There is very serious as well. So they give the land to the bus company, or actually for the buses to stop. That is also one of the indicators for us. And also the IC card, the smart card. And how we try to the performance evaluation for the public transportation in those of cities, and we hope we can collect some data, and from the different city, at the city level, and there is a tools which we call the monitoring and evaluation platform, and can give the data for the local government, as well some part for the central government, can be including the operation data and infrastructure, finance, energy consumption, and safety and the emergency. That is the mainline indicators can use for the policy decision making and comparison different cities, as well as the performance evaluation of public transportation. And this the data is just the beginning to structure, and we really hopefully we can get some help from your side. Basically, some of data, it will come from the company, with the passenger flow data and the vehicle information, and also the operation data. Then come to the monitoring and evaluation at the city level, and then come to some part, if the city, they want to be the metropolis city, then the public transportation dominates the metropolis city, then they can join to this program and have the data come through the local authority come to the MOT as well. And this initially we done in Zhengzhou, and actually since as before I told, the institutional reform have been just taking place in 3 years, and some of the local government is very weak. I mean, we ask them what kind of data you need. Some of them, they say, okay, what? But some of them will say, okay, we will say what you can give in or whatever. It's a start discussion, how we at the central government need what kind of data, and for the local government, at least what you need to have. So such kind of the capacity building, we're taking this the kind of capacity building and also the tools for the local government to strengthen the management skill. Thank you so much. That's my presentation. Oh, yes. Okay.
Since 1980s, along with economic takeoff in China, another major change was taking place. Fast urbanization and cars entering into private life. Economic prosperity goes hand in hand with problems with urban transport. Congestion, air pollution, greenhouse gas emission, identifying climate change are becoming urgent problems for China. These problems also challenge cities in the world. Last 3 decades, the population in Beijing has increased by 10 million and cars by 60 times. In China, people make 100 trips per person per year by public transport in a country with 1.3 billion people. The Chinese government attaches great importance to sustainable development of urban transport, devoted to high-quality, low-carbon transport services to meet the expectation of the Chinese people. In 2006, China Urban Sustainable Transport Research Center, COSTRAC, was established to meet the challenges. As one of the 10 work centers of excellence set up by the Volvo Research and Educational Foundations, to explore and generate comprehensive solutions to urban transport for future cities. In the last 5 years, supported by the Volvo Research and Educational Foundations and the Chinese Ministry of Transport, COSTRAC has grown from a project of 12 people to a national think tank with 40 scientists and researchers.
Our mission is supporting policies, actions through evidence-based scientific research to promote the public-oriented city development and deliver safe, efficient, low-carbon transport system.
求实、创新、开放、协作。
We have made great achievements in policy support, transport strategy and planning, technology development, and low-carbon transport. Our policy support is based on sound science, providing references for policies and decisions at national and municipal levels. In 2009, COSTRAC supported the state councillors drafting the suggestions of prioritizing development of public transport. Premier Wen Jiabao and other leaders of the state council approved this important document. After that, we participated in the development of a series of related policies, such as regulation for public transport in cities, guidelines for implementing the strategy of priority urban public transport, and guideline for transport institutional reform in Chinese central cities. At the same time, policy recommendation for financing public transport development based on our research was submitted to the Ministry of Finance by the Central Committee of China Democratic Construction Association through the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. In 2010, we we started the research on the standards for urban passenger transport and preparing a national technical committee for standards development. Our strategy and planning group aims to provide strategic and technical support for sustainable transport planning, policies and management at national and municipal levels. In October 2010, we joined the research on development of the 12th five-year plan in transport sector. In 2011, our research has been applied in supporting the National Transit Metropolis Program and BRT promotion. Urban rail transit management has gained increasingly research attention, along with the fast growth of urban rail systems in China. We have made a series of research achievements in rail transit operation and management, emergency management, planning and operation. Our research results have been reflected the basic requirement of subway operation, and the National Emergency Management Plan for subways will be ensured by the Ministry of Transport. Information and communication technology is crucially important to ensure effective management and operation of public transport. ICT is also used in system design and taxi management through real-time simulation and modeling. National Public Transport Database has been created by Costrack. It is a tool of monitoring and evaluation for public transportation performance. The research on low-carbon transport target directly at the rapid increase of carbon emission in China. We build emission scenarios, identify emission reduction opportunities and potentials under different policies and technology options, and propose an optimum pathway towards the low-carbon urban transport. To promote sustainable urban transport, the Ministry of Transport has allocated a major finance resource. With such support, in 2007, we created a remote sensing application technology laboratory. In 2009, we set up an urban transport planning, monitoring and evaluation laboratory. Currently, Operation Lab for safe rail operation is being prepared and constructed. Capacity building and international cooperation has contributed greatly to Costrack development. The center has operated with world-renowned organizations. With stronger academic capacity, Costrack has been chosen as secretaries of the National Technical Commission for Urban Passenger Transport Standards and the Academic Committee of Transport Reform and Development in Central Cities. Costrack has committed to building itself as a world knowledge space, a think tank to support policies, a platform for information sharing, and a center for education and international cooperation. Together with the other Volvo Research and Educational Foundation Centers of Excellence in the world, Costrack will accomplish a common mission of sustainable urban transport.
Thanks so much. That's a very, very short video for the center itself.